Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to take these brakes and mount these on instead. Spoiler alert, it's not as expensive as you think. It can be done and they look pretty good. But let's start with assembling these to get them ready on the car. First things first, make sure you have a really messy work area like this. It really helps. I painted these. I do have a video of me doing it. I'll put it right here. I did order these separately. They were damaged when I got the calipers, so it looks a little weird, but this is Hugger Orange custom with crooked Brembo stickers, so that helps. Like I said, I did get these front and rear, replaced both of them. I mainly just wanted it to look a little more factory. I thought that was a scratch, that really scared me. I wanted these to look a little more factory than just having color matched lines. Although I think factory is color matched. But I'm gonna get the brake pads inserted in here. I'm going with a ceramic pad so I don't have too much dust. We do have new wheels coming for this thing, hence why I have a fitment tool on the back. But let me set up a tripod, show you guys how to basically get this thing ready to put on the car, and then we'll go install the rotor. Okay, so you've painted your calipers, you're ready to put them on. They look like this, hopefully. Maybe not orange, but it is what it is. My rear pins, or sorry, my rear calipers came with new pins. The fronts didn't. I called them, they said the fronts don't come with new pins. They do come with new, this thing. I don't know what that's called, but it sits in here. We'll get to that in a second. I'll show you a way to clean up your pins a little easier. Grab you a drill, put them in a drill. Lock them down and use a Scotch-Brite pad. They don't need to be perfect, but this looks a lot better than the old one. Don't crimp down on this part too much because it won't stay in the caliper. Ask me how I know. But that looks a lot better than the pin that came out of it. So I'm going to clean this one up real quick and then throw these pads in and show you. Okay, so you got your caliper sitting like this. You've already cleaned your pins. Put them in just a little bit. Get your rear pad or your inboard pad and hang it on the pins like that. You can put them about halfway. Then get your outboard pad and slide it in and hang it on the top pin. It's a little tricky, I ain't gonna lie. And go ahead and get it started in the hole, this hole here. The pins do slide in from the rear. So probably want to use a rubber hammer for this, but I like to make things harder on myself and then get mad when it goes wrong. But when you're hammering this pin in, you'll hear it bottom out. There you go. So don't do the bottom pin yet, just quite yet. Go ahead and take this, which I cleaned the same way. I put it in a drill Scotch-Brite pad. You can get new ones of these. This goes in this way. Yours probably won't be this hard to get in. I have paint in my holes. This thing is not a full circle. It's got like almost wrench flats on it that are sandwiched on this caliper so that you can put the bolt in the back. But put your pads in, put the top pin in, then this. I'm just gonna get that started. I'll tighten it up here in a second. Okay, now it's time for this. This goes regular hole, oblong hole. Regular hole goes towards the crossover tube or line. Hang it like this. It needs to go underneath here, which I had trouble with, not gonna lie. it needs to sit. Oh, that's because I'm doing it backwards, I think. No, I'm not. Good God. I'm just going to grab this other caliper I have and show you here. So you've got your crossover tube at the bottom. This sits underneath these pins here, over this bar and under this pin. So you want to take it, and what I do with it? Oh, I sat it over here. Lord. And hook it underneath, which for some reason, these ones they sent me, I think they're made differently. Here's the stock ones. It's almost like it's too far back or too far forward. Yeah, look, they're made different. I think I may just clean these up and use them because these are just not wanting to go in. Let me, yeah, this one is going in a lot easier. Let me clean these up, and I don't want to use those. They're not really fitting like I want them to. Let me clean this up and I'll get back. Okay, so I cleaned this up. I'm not gonna say that you should, but I feel like a dishwasher would get this pretty clean. Like I said, I'm not gonna say you should do that, but I just used a little, I call them cookies. I don't know what the correct term is for them, but one of these on like a little angle grinder. Cleaned it up, didn't take off any material really, just, it's not the prettiest thing, but the other ones don't fit. If you can see the difference, you can kind of tell how they're made. They're a different shape up here. So the factory one has an arrow even to tell you which way it's going to go. I just, for some reason, cannot. I could probably make that fit, and actually made it fit on the one that's on the car, but I don't know. I don't like it. So hook the top. It's going to sit right behind here. Then you're going to have to bend this down and slide your other pin in. Go ahead and hammer your pin in past it. Wait for it to bottom out, and there's your caliper built. Like I said, I would maybe hang a rag over that or something while you're hammering it in, just to make sure you don't mess anything up. And then take this, it's a 13, and go ahead and tighten that up. Now, also, this is just to get it started. I'm going to hang the caliper. We need to make some adjustments. Definitely don't want to just assemble this thing dry. I would put some grease on these pins just lightly, because these calipers do slide on these pins. I'd put grease under here on these contact points. I'd maybe grease this a little bit, even though the pad doesn't necessarily contact this. And I'd put grease on your pistons, on the face of the pistons. So past that, and maybe on the sides, because it contacts here and here. If you're going to do final assembly, and that's all you're going to do, then, or if you don't think you're going to take these back off, I think I'm going to end up taking these back out once they're on the car, greasing them up, putting them back together. But for now, we have an assembled caliper, and we can go put the rotor on after we assemble the rear caliper. So let's grab the rear and let's do it next. All right, as far as the rears go, same thing. It came with new pins. It came with new clips. I think these fit, at least on the rear. They seem to be fine. I did save my old ones. If I need to use them, I'm gonna have to clean them up and use them. These are not directional. They're symmetrical, so you don't really have to worry about that. But same process. Grab your inboard pad, slide it in. Take your pin from the rear. Go ahead and slide it through. I like to just keep it the same and do the top pin first. I said I don't think you necessarily need to. Okay. This one doesn't protrude as much, but I am going to take it when I'm done and make sure that I've got that pin in all the way. I've been using a little extension, or not extension, a little bit just to put on there like a punch. If you have a punch, I recommend using a brass punch. But yeah, they do protrude the front a little bit. So same thing. This one just doesn't have a center crossbar. It is going to have one of these though. So same thing. Slide it in there. Make sure it sits in the middle. Bend this down. and go ahead and slide your pin through. And there's your rear assembled. A lot easier than the front. Like I said, grease these pins, grease the contact points if it's your final assembly. This is not for me. If you want these exact, so these rear calipers, they come on a lot of different cars. Don't quote me, but I do know they come on Camaros, CTSVs, I believe some ATSVs, Corvettes. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe even Tesla has rear brakes like this. They do have different mounting points as far as here, but the distance is the same. These are cutouts here for parking brake for stock cars. I'm not using a parking brake on this, at least one designed for this. So now that you've got your calipers assembled, let's take this and the front and let's go get it ready. Let's go get the car ready for this. You're going to be using different brackets. This is the rear bracket. This is the front bracket. Looks a little small, but the front bracket is a lot easier. Yours will not come with this notch. I don't want to have to take off or take my whole axle out if I ever have to remove this. So I notched it, and I mean, that's really not gonna, that being there is not gonna provide any extra torque or flex, or you know what I mean, rigidity. So caliper's gonna mount up just like this on the car. Let me go show you what it needs to get this ready. Okay, so yours may look like this. It may look a little different. If you've got drum hubs, then you don't need, you can skip this step. We need to put this on so that it accepts a slip-on rotor. That's the main issue here with this. This hub and rotor is one assembly. Obviously, this rotor is a lot smaller than the one we're putting on. I'll get to this in a second and everything you need to do to it. But if you need, or if you already have drum hubs, you can skip this step. This is a 67-68 disc setup for a Camaro. This is a 1969 Camaro, so it should be a little bit, I don't know if they put 67-68 brakes on Camaros. This car was a 6-cylinder from the factory. I don't feel like these are factory, but you may know more than me. When I looked up that number, it just came to a 67-68 part number. Yours is probably going to look a little different, but I'm going to show you what I do at least to get down to what I need. You just need to get down to the hub, or sorry, the spindle. You just need a bare spindle. Now, if you're doing these, at least, there are two big 13-16 bolts. Don't take those off. Those are going to split your caliper, and it'll leak fluid everywhere. Ask me how I know. Oh, that is not the right thing. I'm separating the caliper. They look like they're going to hold the caliper on. They don't. You need to take off the caliper bracket bolts, which are extremely tight. God, I don't know who put these on. It wasn't me. I'm hoping I don't, never mind. I'm not even gonna say that, but they are 5/8. There's not gonna be too much taking it off that's gonna be metric, just so you know. See if I can get this one down here. I'll show you here in a second what I mean. It's just hard for me to get the camera back up in there. Once you get this caliper off, just let it hang by the brake line. If you're ever going to be reusing a caliper, I don't recommend doing that, and a brake line. It can cause strain, it can crack it, it can break. But we've got to get new fluid to these anyways. I'm probably going to do like a complete fluid flush. So there's no stress in that, other than if it does break, it's going to spill brake fluid everywhere. But I've already got brake fluid everywhere, so. Okay, once you've got those two bolts out, set it aside. I'm only setting these aside because I may sell this. Pull your caliper up and off. Mine has a bracket on the back that's attached. We'll get that off in a second. Now, the rotor needs to come off. So, go ahead and turn it back. Dust cap needs to come off next. Trying to hit it away from the hub. There we go. Yours may be a little tighter than this. Hopefully it is, honestly. But all that does is just keep dust out. I'm gonna save this one. On the other side, I had to use the stock one. The one that was supplied with the kit, I've made it work before on other cars. I just like the way that one went in a little better. It was a lot easier. I didn't have to freeze it for 24 hours and all that stuff. So go ahead and take your cotter pin out. You can throw that away. We don't need it. And if you are doing this and you sell this to somebody and they want to reuse a cotter pin, they probably don't need to buy it. But next step, take this off. This is a 27. Shouldn't be tight. I'm just doing this for, I guess, efficiency. Set that aside. And now, after you got that off and your cotter pin off, the whole thing should slide off as an assembly. There is a bearing in the back, but it should be held in by a seal. There you go. You got your stock front bearing. You have your washer and your bolt or your nut. And go ahead and set that aside. Hopefully it's the last time it's on this car. All right, let me grab a rag. I'll show you how to get this off. All right, so next step, I'm just gonna get this grease off just so I don't get covered in grease every 5 seconds. Clean your spindle off. Inspect your spindle while you're here. Might as well. Make sure there's no wear on it. Make sure a bearing didn't go out and you had a hub riding weird. If you've got any grooves or anything on here, I'd go ahead and replace your spindle just to be safe. I mean, you're doing all this work, why not? This one looks okay. The other side looked all right too, so just get it cleaned. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll clean it fully here in a second. All right, so these are either I believe they're 9/16 or 5/8. Let me not lie to you. Okay, they're a lot bigger than 5/8, I lied. They are 3/4. There's a nut on the back of them. I'm gonna try to go ahead and break that nut loose. Wow, those are tight. Good Lord. Let me get those broke loose and I'll get back to you. Okay, I got the nuts off the back. This one is like locked in there. So I'm gonna get the other two off, see if I can manipulate it. This tab is supposed to be bent over this bolt so it doesn't come out. But if yours isn't, then just go ahead and roll with it. It is a 24. It's usually a 24. Oh, it's a 24 when it's not all crusty. It's fine. I got the fix for that. You don't need that anymore, so take that out. Yeah, that's locked in there for some reason, so. Of course it is. Anyways, once you get that bolt out, which I'm gonna go do, get that bolt out, get this bolt out, get that bolt out. The dust cover will come off and the caliper bracket will come off, and you can let them all hang as an assembly. Or if you want to put a bucket under it, you can take this line right here off and just drop the whole thing. That's all that's holding it then. But I don't know, I'm gonna have to probably fight with it, get a bunch of crowbars and pry bars and a lot more tools than I should, and I'll get that bolt out and get back to you. Like I was saying, it comes out easy. No, No problems at all. You don't have to drill anything out. It's perfectly fine. It definitely is not going to get stuck in there. You don't have to drill anything or deal with that at a later date. Oh God. Maybe a second before I get back to you. I got to take that spindle or knuckle off or whatever you call that and get the half destroyed bolt out of it and not bend it or break it or drill out. But hey, once you get to this point, it's easy. I don't know why I said that. Let me knock on some wood. If you're wondering how it's going, it's not. I got this off. Knuckle, maybe. It's not the spindle. I don't know what this is called. I drilled it out. Got a drill bit stuck. I hate it here. Tried to pop the drill bit out through the back. Now the drill bit's hardened, obviously. Well, the hardened drill bit is in there, preventing me from drilling it out the rest of the way. So I'm just gonna go soak it in PB Blaster and hope I can knock that bolt out because it is just completely seized in this thing. That's okay. I already cleaned it out. It's fine. Let's do the back. Oh, I just said I was gonna do the back, but I couldn't let this just sit here. So I'm trying to use a die grinder and just everything to get this bolt out because I broke the drill bit out. It won't drill because the drill bit's hardened. It's hitting the drill bit. It's dulling all my drill bits. And then I just broke off a punch in it too. So, okay, we're back. I'm sure you saw that. I got it. That was not fun. Okay, so like I was saying, once you've cleaned all your metal shavings out of the hole, this gets mounted. I'm just gonna go ahead and move this out of the way just for ease. Yeah, okay. This steering knuckle, I learned what they're called because I looked it up to see if I was gonna need a new one. Steering arm, that's what this is. You don't need this gasket anymore, also. Goes here. Obviously you want your steering knuckle here. And then, let's go ahead and clean this off. Make sure you get all your factory metal shavings out of the way. And then, I'm going to show you how this bracket goes on, which is what I was going to do 3 hours ago. Anyways, no, not the bracket first. First thing is this hub. So, with this hub, it's going to sit on here just like this, right? You need to put your bearings and stuff in it. But you need to turn this hub down or turn your rotor diameter up. I turned my rotor bigger. I did it by bolting my factory rotor. I'll show you what I did, but I bolted my factory rotor to my new rotor and just milled out with an arbor or a die grinder the size I needed. They are aluminum, so you do need an aluminum bit. Not the hub, sorry. The rotors, the aftermarket rotors, the new ones, are billet aluminum or forged aluminum, I'm assuming. So you do need an aluminum bit to be able to make it fit this. But the rear factory rotors did slide right onto here, so it was the right diameter. Milled it out, now it works. I would have preferred to do it with a lathe. This just wouldn't chuck up in a lathe. It is what it is. I'll put the part number for the hub that you need, or the hub set. It's like $100 for both. I'll put the the studs that I used in the description as well. Sorry, I'm out of it. That bolt really took it out of me. I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna show you guys, but if I start talking all kinds of crazy, that's what happened. So let's get these bearings packed. Get in here. So what you're gonna do, this large bearing that comes with it is gonna go in the rear, and then you need to take a piece of wood and hammer that seal in there. You don't want to do it with just a hammer because it'll get sideways or something like that. So let me pack this bearing, get it sat in there, and then I'll show you what I mean about putting the seal in there. So I'll try to show you this best I can here. Set your hub aside. Make sure you get a dirty rag to set your bearings on. It's really good for it. And then take your bearing grease, and you just want to put you a bunch in your hand, in your palm. I would recommend using gloves for this part, just personally. And then as you take it, you want to push the grease up into this. So you're going to kind of take it and roll it up in your palm and try to force it out of the top of the bearing. you know you got it when they start coming out of these rollers and out of the top. It's a very not clean thing to do. So you can see it start to come out of the top there. See it pushed out? I've got bearing grease packed fully in there. I'm hoping that it's showing up on camera. So I am going to go ahead and set this in the hub like that. Try to get some of the excess grease off. You don't want it caked in grease as I just did. I'll take a rag, get the rest of that out. I'm going to go ahead and pack the front while I have dirty gloves on. Change my gloves and then keep going. So same thing. Just pack it. I'm trying to force it up through the bearing. It's okay if it gets everywhere. You can clean off the excess. Set that right there. Change gloves. Show you how to push that seal in. I got grease in my mouth. Oh, I'm going to throw up. So hopefully we're done with the grease for now. Let me grab a rag. I'll get the excess out of there. Okay, so just take your rag. Just get the excess grease out of there. I promise if you did it like me, you're going to have plenty of grease. Don't worry about some in there. It's okay if it rides on the spindle. We're going to set that one in there. But for now, the cupped side goes towards this. Grab you a hammer. This is probably overkill, but I know my piece of wood's definitely overkill. Set you a piece of wood on there and try to hit it directly in the middle. Just like that. So when you do it, you want it to be flush. So I'm just going to take a smaller hammer. Everything's so hard today. Taking a rubber hammer. And when you do it, you want it just flush with it. That's it. With the other side, the washer and nut is what holds it on here. So take this and just drop it in there like that. And then we're ready to go throw it on the car. So pay no attention to the grease on there because I may or may not have forgotten a step. You need to put your bracket on next that fits your calipers. So here's your bracket. If you notice, it's got one big hole and a small hole and then two symmetrical holes. These are the ones that's going to go on your caliper. So you need to take it, and these get mounted. The caliper gets mounted inboard or towards the middle of the car. So this is going to go on here just like this. So there's actually nothing else that goes on. You could probably mock up some kind of dust shield if you wanted to, but this goes right on here like this, and make sure that your rear steering arm is behind it. And there's a little bit of spacer action that's got to happen, but let me grab the bolts that came with it and some gloves, and I'll show you how this goes on. This is the next step. So your front bracket kit is going to come with these bolts. This one is for your top. This goes here, right? It's a spacer. Then this. These are going to mount your caliper, and this is a replacement bolt for the one that I destroyed, thank God. So I am going to need to reuse one of my factory bolts, but that's okay. If you notice, this bottom bolt comes with two different washers, a gold and a silver. The gold washer goes on the back side with the nut. The silver washer, the thinner one, is actually a spacer. I mean, it's a washer, yes, but they use it as a spacer. So you're going to need to take your bracket, put your bigger hole on the top, right? Put it through here, then your spacer, then mount it, just like that. This one gets this here. If I can do this with, all right, and then that. Just go ahead and start it. I don't recommend doing it with an impact. It's pretty easy to cross thread. Ask me how I know. And then this. This is not fitting. I think there's a burr on this. I think I may go drill this out real quick. But you're going to put this on, then your nut, then your nut and washer. Let me go clean this hole out. All right, so I got that. So you need to tighten up this bolt, tighten up this with your nut and washer, which is right here. And then the other nut and bolts are simply used just to hold your steering arm onto your spindle. There's nothing that goes there. You could probably fab up some kind of newer model dust shield or something, but the one that I have is just not going to work. So let's get these tightened up. Like I said, the top is a 24. The lower is actually a 19 now, and I forget what this was, 5/8 maybe, or 13/16. I'm not tightening these down fully. I mean, I am, but I'm not like torquing them. I recommend torquing them, but we need to do some fitting up of the caliper before we do this. And the reason that I said put them then this way is because you may have to take this spacer out and this spacer and do some adjusting. The only reason I say that, this top one is, hang on, I'll show you. So for the Chevelle that I did, which I'll put the video for that right here if you're curious, but for the Chevelle, I had to take off about, I think it was like 3/16 of an inch. I forget exactly, but I had to take this off so that this bracket sat more inboard because the caliper was rubbing on the rotor. It's all going to be different. The stock spindles, at least the stock spindles, are going to be machined so much differently year to year, car to car even, so it's not going to be just a true bolt-on kit. I mean, it is, but you got to do a little bit of figuring out and working with it. So, I mean, get them tight for now, but you don't need to get them, you know, super tight. The reason I said do that way is once you put this hub on, if you have them the other way, it's going to be a little harder to fit them on or take those nuts on and off. So let's get this hub on here and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the rotor. But once this hub goes on, it should never have to come off. So you are safe to go ahead and do your, well, that's not on there enough. I don't know what's going on. Hang on. Oh, the bearings sat crooked. Make sure your bearing's all the way in there. There we go. And this is a 27, I believe. Don't tighten it up with this. I'm just getting it closer. You don't need this super, super tight. I like to just get it almost hand tight. And then once there's just a little bit of resistance, about like that, to where it doesn't spin completely free, that's where I'll have it. And make sure that your cotter pin is lined up. I'm going to back it off just a hair so that it is lined up. I think I got to go a little bit more. Right there. So it spins freely, but not super free. The cotter pin is what's really going to hold that nut in place. You don't want too much bearing preload on this. You just want enough. Everybody does their cotter pins different. I just take the bigger side, fold it over the top. Like that. Some people go around the sides, but as long as it's bent, it's not going to back out. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead and take this dust cap, throw it back on there. Okay. So now our hub's on. Let me show you what I'm talking about with this rotor. Okay, so there are actually two things to show you about this rotor. One, I had to machine out the inside so that it fit on the hub, which it fits, obviously. And two, these rotors are actually directional. So if you see these vanes, as the wheel spins this way, you don't want these grabbing air. So this would be the wrong way. You want it to kind of throw out cold air or hot air. So this is the right side and there's the left side. So here's where I'm talking about different calipers. So I have SS1LE calipers. The brackets are actually going to be the same no matter what caliper you're using, more or less. So if you can see the bolts, they're going to line up with these calipers, which are, these are standard SS Camaro calipers. They're 4-piston. They're going to be, I believe, a 13.6 inch rotor. Now this is the wrong side, but they'll even work with these ZL1 style. I mean, they actually go on this side, but as you can see, they're going to line up. Now the problem with using these massive calipers is so the rotor that I'm using is a 14.6 inch rotor, I believe. These use a 15.3 inch. These are going to be harder to adapt only because the rotor hat depth, what I'm trying to say is this one here, the depth here is way bigger on the ZL1, the big ZL1. On 6th gen ZL1, let me rephrase. These will work. It is a different lug pattern, technically. This is 5x4 3/4. The rotor is 5x120. It's a metric size. It is not, some people will argue it's enough to make a difference. To me, the wheels that I'm getting, as long as the wheels match this, and I can use that to center it, and it's not gonna move, all it does is sandwich this. This is not gonna hurt anything. At least in my experience, it's not hurt anything. So let me back this camera up a little bit and I'll show you how to mount the calipers. I'm going to use that. I'm probably going to use lug nuts to center it, at least 3 of them, because if you don't, it may sit a little bit crooked. It's going to mess with your spacing. So go ahead and put 3 lug nuts on this and I'll show you how to mount the caliper. Okay, it's time to mount your caliper. Like I said, just use you some lug nuts to center up this rotor. Good thing about these, they're conical, so they are going to center the rotor a little better. Okay, so now you need these that came with the kit. I don't have an Allen that fits these, but a T60 Torx does work. This is where having this disconnected is going to be helpful, even though I didn't do it last time. These are actually going to go in this way here and mount to your caliper this way. I think, if I remember correctly, I had to take the rotor off, mount it, and then mount the rotor. So, slide your caliper, pads and everything over your rotor. And this is where having your caliper loose is going to help, or your rotor. Definitely hand start them. Ow, pinch myself. Okay, now I'm going to make sure I've got these pretty tight, at least. Hoping you can see all this. Ow. This is where I probably need an Allen key that actually fits. I'll try to see what size it is so I can tell you guys, but as of right now, I don't have one that fits. I have it Torx. Okay, well those are tight. They're tight enough that it's not going to affect the spacing. So if you can see here, we've got space on this side and no space on this side. I mean, this rotor's locked down. It will not move. So the problem is that the caliper, don't do that, the caliper is too far this way. So here's where taking this and that bottom one out are going to make a difference, or sanding them down. So you can see it's hitting here, not hitting here. It needs to come over a good 1/8, maybe 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to take and grind that down, make sure it's spaced the right way, and then that is the fronts done. So I may do that off camera because everybody's going to be different, but you do need to make sure that that's spaced. And the way that you do that, like I said, take this bolt out. You can do that with a wrench from here. You can leave everything mounted, take the bolt out, take this out, grind it. Same thing with down here. Take that out, make sure that falls out. Actually, you probably should have put the bolt that way. So I said the bolt the wrong way. That's my fault. So I'm gonna have to take all this back off, but probably gonna do that off camera because it's not gonna be that much of a difference. You do just have to make sure that it is spaced the correct way. Right now, this is not spaced the right way, but it's close enough to where I can get measurements for wheels. And there's the front done after you connect your tie rod back up. So I will put in the description, I've ordered them, but they haven't come in yet, the correct lines that go from here to here. So this is a 10mm metric banjo fitting, and this is just a standard brake line. I believe it's 3/16 flare. You do need the female version here, and like I said, I'll put all that in the description. You can order on Amazon. It's, I believe, $40 per set, and I'm just gonna get 15-inch. I'm gonna have it come off the bottom probably here and go to it. I mean, I'm never gonna turn that much. I think it turns about here, so it'll be fine. You can have it come off the top, whatever. So there's the fronts done. I believe I covered everything. I don't think there's anything I missed. So just to run back through, you need your brackets, you need your rotors. I will put links in the description for the rotors. I have calipers. Both of those calipers are for sale. If you want them, I have a full set. Actually, I have the fronts for the Camaro, and I have a set of rears, which could be used for either one. And then I have fronts for a ZL1. So if you want to go that route, you're more than welcome. I actually have a set of these are the wrong diameter, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about the hat depth being wrong. So I mean, imagine if we put that on there, that rotor would be so far inboard that we'd be running into the opposite problem, and we'd need more spacer to bring it out this way, and you'd need to bring it in this way way more, because that rotor would be sitting, I mean, almost here, and you're not going to be able to clearance that. So everybody's spindle is going to be different. Everybody's hub is going to be just a little bit different. Just machine your rotor out. It's way easier than doing everything else. And there's the front done. So your rears are actually a little bit easier. You still need to machine out the rotor, but you can get those from O'Reilly's. They're a lot cheaper. The front rotors, if you get them new, they are extremely expensive. I recommend getting them from a wrecked car, or finding on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. Camaro, the fronts at least. SS1LE and Cadillac, I believe, CTSV or ATSV, one of the two. I'll double check and put it up on the screen. They are the correct rotor depth. Now, if you do the other rotors that I have, they're going to be a different, or the other calipers that I have, 4-piston, they're going to be a different rotor diameter, completely different. They're not 2-piece, they're a lot cheaper. So it just depends on what look you're going for. You're more than welcome to buy those from me and hit me up in the comments or on Instagram, and I'll lead you to the right rotors so you don't have to spend a lot of money. If you're just going for, a bigger brake setup than factory, a lot bigger brake setup than factory, and you want just a simpler 4-piston, a lot more cost effective, then that's the way I would go. I got a good deal on these calipers and then realized 2-piece rotors are expensive, and now I'm having to get new wheels. It's just a whole thing. So it all depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take this caliper off. This is going to be different for everybody. These are Right Stuff detailing calipers. They have two Allen's or slide pin bolt style here and here. I'm going to take that off. This rotor just slides off. This is actually your axle, it's not a hub. Slides off. I got to take the dust shield off, and then I'll get it down to where it's just an axle and the axle housing, and show you how to mount the caliper bracket and go from there. It's, like I said, it's more simple. You do still have to do some adjustment with shims and spacers and stuff like that, and washers, but it's, like I said, knock on wood, it is a lot easier than the front. The front is the hard part. Okay, so pay no attention to the body work that's happening over here. Your caliper brackets will not come like this. Some of you are going to have C-clip eliminators, which obviously you don't need to get in there to pull your axle out. I'd recommend pulling your axle out, not clearancing it like this, but I wanted to be able to take it on and off, so I cut it so I can mount it on. But what you're going to do, if you look, you're only going to need if you have a 10 or 12 bolt, these. So put your bolt in through this way, right? Put it onto your hub here and just mount it up. So I'm hoping that I clearance this enough where it fits, and it doesn't, I don't think. No, it doesn't, of course. So let me go clearance that some more, and I'll get back. Okay, I finally got it set up. Sorry for this really squeaky chair, but I did have to take a little bit off this side, but it finally fits. So with these, they are different per car, but I'm mounting them on the leading edge, not the trailing edge of the axle. Yeah, that's nice. So go ahead and get your bolts. You shouldn't have to do too much adjustment on this portion of it, so you should be good to go ahead and mount it. Just keep in mind, don't mount it upside down or backwards, because the top holes are wider than the bottom holes. And if you do end up clearancing it like me, just take the smallest measurement of your axle here. Mine was 1.5 inches, I believe, and I just cut the bottom out. It's not gonna help, or it's not gonna hurt in my head. I mean, once this gets bolted on, it's not gonna go anywhere. I believe these are 14s. Thankfully, they're a little newer than the ones that came off, so they should be a little bit easier to maneuver. So get these tightened up, and then I'll show you about the rotor, what I was talking about. You have to machine this one also, but it's a little bit easier just because it's steel, not aluminum. It's a little more forgiving. It takes a little longer, but it's more forgiving. And I did end up, the ones that you get, they're probably not going to be much different than mine, but I did end up go ahead and I painted the inside, not the rotor face, don't freak out, but I did go ahead and paint the inside, one, so it doesn't rust, and two, so it looks a little bit more like the two-piece in the front. But let me go grab the caliper, we'll mount that. That's not perfect, but you see what I was going for. I'm going to grab some lugs, grab the caliper. It mounts the exact same way, except there's one little spacer difference, so I'll grab some washers and show you what I'm talking about. So your factory kit comes with these, one set per side. I add some thinner, you can kind of tell they're thinner, washers as spacers. Just from personal experience, I know what they need. So it's going to go here, like that. I do the bigger one first, then the smaller one. Not that it matters that much. That's going to be fun to tighten. Like that, right? And then your caliper is going to mount just like this. So once that's mounted up, well, slide your rotor on and mount your caliper up just like that. So it should, you may have to take a little bit off or use a little bit different washer setup on yours, but at least on the other side this worked. It probably won't work over here just because I know my luck, but I've also got this backwards. I just now realized. Did I grab the wrong caliper? Oh, that's why. I got the caliper on the wrong side over there. No, I don't. Well, I'm gonna have to switch that. If you can't tell, it's gonna go here. I'm gonna have to pull those out, put them here, and the bleeders need to go on the top. So it is what it is. That's a small fix, but yours will be correct because you're not like me. You're gonna do it the right way. It's not something I can't fix while it's on here, so it's okay. Can't believe I did that. Yes, I can. But there's a website you can look up if your caliper needs to be on the leading edge or the trailing edge, just based off what you got them off of. It's the same website that you get the brackets from. You can identify your calipers, and if you need to, you can talk to the guy that owns it. I believe his name's Scott. He was very helpful in helping me figure out everything I needed. Let me grab a 16 wrench. That ain't gonna work. Made sure to get the short wrench. Why'd I do this to myself? Is it not a 16? It's an 18. Lord, these are 18s, not 16s. I'm sure I'm instilling a lot of hope in you by having my caliper mounted upside down. Trial and error, folks. That's all it is. Let me make the mistake so you don't have to. Okay, so what I was talking about is you definitely want to make sure that your rotor's mounted. I already tightened this up all the way. You don't have to go crazy. So now, got it mounted up. That's just pad noise. It's not hitting the rotor or the caliper. You can see here, you got clearance on both sides. So this is a little bit close here, but it's not contacting. It's got clearance. It's got clearance. I actually ended up, I lied to you guys. I took those out. So it's almost like the kit is has been designed and it works exactly like it's supposed to. So you don't need to listen to what I said. So I actually just put those spacers in there, and then, once this is flipped the correct way, you don't want your bleeders on the bottom, just to be clear. This line here, same thing. I'm going to have it come off, probably swing in this way with the ones I got on Amazon, swing in here, and connect to my stock line there. And I can make a new one if I need to, but there's your rears mounted. So now, you should be good now. You should be mounted. The only thing I didn't show is the brake lines, which is going to be a little bit different for everybody, but you should have fronts mounted. I'm going to do a little bit of a video here soon. I am getting custom wheels made. That's what this wheel fitment tool is. I'm waiting on tires to come in. I didn't paint this side yet because I'm mounting that up to that and all that stuff. So if you guys want to see the video on how I am going to create my own custom wheels for this thing, and I'm pretty excited for them, honestly. They're going to be one-off, two-piece, or maybe probably two-piece. I'm not doing three-piece. Just two-piece wheels that are special made for this car. I'm going to try to do a 10.5 in the rear. I may need to do longer studs back here, which isn't a concern, but I did roll this fender. I brought it out an inch and a half. So you can't really tell, but looking down the side, it is wider, and definitely this thing needs some body work. I mean, look how wavy it is. But you've got your fronts mounted. I covered everything there. You've got your rears mounted. I will show you real quick what I did for the rears. So I took this is the pull off of the rear, right? That is the diameter that you needed. So I just took the caliper or the rotor, sorry, that I got, flipped it over, bolted it with 3 bolts, or you can use 5, whatever. Then used a die grinder, flipped it over, used a die grinder to make the aftermarket or the new caliper, new rotor, Lord, the new rotor this diameter. That's all you need to do. Unless you're doing it with a lathe, You could turn down your axles, but everybody's axle is going to be a little bit different. But I mean, as far as it goes, it fits pretty well. I am going to drill and tap this. I did all three. I just didn't do this side yet. So the lines that I have in the description will fit this and the front. They're both 10 millimeter to, I believe, 3/16 female here. Don't quote me on the 3/16. It's been a minute since I've done that, but there's everything you need to know. Once again, I appreciate you guys following. Appreciate you guys following the build. I'm going to be doing some body work on this thing and speccing the wheels. Once the body work gets done, once the wheels get on and tires, which that's really not too far away, she'll be back on the road. I have the interior sitting upstairs. It's ready to go. So I'm going to do a little bit of stuff here and there, but that's it for now. I appreciate you guys. Give it a like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.